Tavia retrieved what looked like a metal toothpick from the heel of her boot and started poking and prodding at the locking mechanism on the cell door.
No. This is very basic, nothing more than a standard Magnalock.
As she prodded, the lock gave off a sharp, high-pitched beep, and Tavia tried to open the door subtly. However, to her disappointment, it did not open.
Damn it!
Not basic enough, it seems.
Semele spoke cynically, and to her surprise, Tavia smiled back at her, again running her gaze up and down the length of the mutoid's body.
Yeah, a bit gutted with myself there. Probably best I shut my mouth, huh, sweet cheeks?
Tavia winked at her before continuing to pick at the lock. Semele was slightly taken aback by the woman's crude appraisal of her. Callan turned to Semele while Tavia worked.
Are you recovered enough for a fight?
What's the plan?
I'm not sure there is one apart from taking the guards out and getting ourselves back to the entrance. I hope the bracelet I dropped is still there.
The best plans are usually simple. I'll be okay to fight.
Tavia suddenly slapped her forehead with the palm of her right hand.
Tavia Nix, stop being a dumbass and think.
The lock made another beeping noise, and as Tavia pulled the door handle once more, it opened a little, and she immediately smiled back at them both, before gently closing the door again.
Gotcha! So, you guys let me know when you're ready, but it seems like it's now or never. The longer we wait, the closer we get to a date with a firing squad. Before we leg it, I just need to get a backpack hidden in the hills, 5 minutes away. It's got stuff I need. That okay?
Semele and Callan looked at each other, slightly confused by the request, but nodding almost in unison at Tavia.
Ready then?
They both stood up, and Tavia took that response as a yes, prodding the lock again. It opened fully this time. Callan exited the cell door first, closely followed by Semele, both of them apparently eager for the confrontation that awaited. Callan quickly analysed the situation. 5 troops were guarding the detention block, which housed some 10 cells. He grabbed one guard and swiftly broke his neck, followed by another he lifted above head height, throwing him forcibly to the floor, the unfortunate guard's head hitting the stone surface with a fatal ferocity. Semele went about her work with equal vigour, delivering a thudding blow to the shoulders of one guard and aiming an acrobatic flying kick to the chest of another, both guards slumping to the floor unconscious. Tavia grabbed a handgun that had been dropped by one of the troops and shot the 5th guard. Callan and Semele armed themselves with 2 of the troopers' guns. As Callan moved towards the exit, he noticed Tavia ruffling around in the pockets of one of the laid-out guards. She found what she was looking for, a key-card device that operated the cell doors. Quickly, the blonde woman opened the 9 other cells. Around 40 or more prisoners bolted out of the cramped cells and ran towards the exit. Callan paused momentarily in admiration of Tavia's actions he considered to be both brave and honourable, and which endeared her immediately to the Zadithan. He also knew that the fleeing prisoners would provide a distraction which would aid their own escape. Without further delay, Callan bounded off towards the entrance chamber of the building. Federation troops streamed in from other areas of the complex, mowing down as many prisoners as they could as hordes ran for their lives and their freedom. The Kainessos police seemed to be off target, with a few shots accidentally hitting Federation troops instead of the escaping prisoners. Callan, Semele and Tavia quickly shot down any guards in their path. Callan, relieved to see his discarded bracelet exactly where he had left it, swiftly retrieved it while shooting a Federation trooper. The main doors were starting to close, and Tavia was first out, followed by Callan, who squeezed through the ever-decreasing opening. Semele was trapped inside as the gap narrowed to just a few inches. Callan grabbed the doors, halting their closure before forcing them open once more. Grunting with the effort, he pushed them open with all his might, just wide enough for Semele to slide through the gap.
Thank you!
You're welcome.
Callan let go of the doors, and they slammed closed fully just as Space Commander Arik arrived in the entrance area, his fury evident as he realized Semele and Callan were now outside the building and escaping.
Get the door! The door! No!
Quick, follow me!
Tavia sped off through a gap between the buildings and bounded over a grass verge that led to a range of dusty mountains beyond. Grabbing a rather large leather backpack, she spent a few moments examining the contents, obviously relieved that everything was still there.
Gotcha.
Callan noticed several Federation troops following through the gap in the buildings and heading their way.
Hey! Both of you, grab onto my arms. I hope this works.
Tavia was silent for once, clutching her backpack as if her life depended on it. He switched the red button on the communicator that opened a channel.
This is Callan.
This is Villa. Reading you, Callan. What happened? We've been going crazy up here trying to find you.
No time, Villa. Booster signal. 3 to teleport, but we only have 1 bracelet.
Tavia and Semele gripped Callan's arms on either side of him.
3? What do you mean, 3?
Just bring us up, Villa!
Welcome back.
Yeah, about time. Where have you been?
Tavia took in the unfamiliar and advanced technology of the room she had materialized in and let out a slow, admiring whistle.
Damn, nice ride, Callan. Where'd you pick this ship up? If this is Federation tech, I'll eat my backpack.
Hold on. Who's she? Do we have to pick up strays everywhere we go?
Villa stared pointedly at Tavia. Ignoring them both, Callan strode towards Blake, who was standing just in front of the teleport controls. She searched his face with anxious eyes.
Where were you? I was frantic with worry when we lost contact. Did you meet with the rebel leaders? How did you and Semele end up in the detention centre?
I'll brief you on what happened, but Blake, we need to get to the flight deck immediately and prepare for a possible attack. The situation is far worse than we feared.
Something in Callan's gaze halted Blake's flood of questions. She realized she had come to trust the warrior more than anyone else on the ship, so she nodded, and they made their way to the steps leading to the flight deck. The others followed closely behind. Tavia decided that for once she'd learn more by keeping her mouth shut, and glancing at Semele, noticed that the mutoid seemed subdued, almost worried. A mutoid showing emotion was even more intriguing. Whatever she had landed in, Tavia decided it might be worth sticking around for a while. That is, if she could convince the others not to dump her off at the next habitable planet. One glance at the apparent leader of this crew with her girl-next-door good looks had convinced Tavia that she might be worth getting to know even more than Semele. Glamour girls, Tavia thought to herself wryly, almost never turned out to be worth the trouble, no matter how decorative.
We met with Tedrax, a resistance contact, as planned. But on our way to join with the rebels, we were ambushed by the Federation troops and Tedrax was killed. The Federation forces completely control the planet Blake, and the resistance is almost non-existent. They are drugging the entire population down there with mass executions of civilians who refuse the drug. I'm not easily shocked, but what I saw down there, Blake, it is honourable to show no mercy to an enemy, but to murder women and children, whole families, is pure evil.
Callan's face was calm, but his eyes could not hide the horror of what he had seen on the planet. Blake was silent as they reached the flight deck. Villa and Semele quickly moved to their positions, and Tavia made herself comfortable in the seating area, where Ensor was already lounging nonchalantly. She eyed the dark-haired man.
Some kind of technician, maybe. Pretty typical. Nice looking, but there's something in his eyes. Can't put my finger on it.
What's this? Just another stray for Blake's homeless rabble. Couldn't they find anything better?
He dismissed Tavia, averting his gaze as Semele's surprisingly halting voice began.
Blake, I've put the Vindictus and everyone on board in even more danger.
Callan, seeing Semele's obvious distress, again felt the same sense of protectiveness and sympathy for the mutoid he had experienced in the detention cell on Kynessos.
Blake, that's the other reason why we need to get away from here as quickly as possible. While we're being held, they used a mind probe on Semele and managed to extract information about the Vindictus, our capabilities, and who we are. It wasn't her fault. There was no way she could have resisted.
The forced calm in Callan's voice saw Blake's face grow pale, following his account of the atrocities occurring on Kynessos and the threat from the Federation knowing exactly who they were and the advanced technology they possessed.
So, all you two managed to do was botch the mission and get us on the Federation's most wanted list. You should have listened to me, Blake, and allowed us to hit the Federation by less overt methods.
I would suggest you shut up right now, Ensor. Callan and Semele risked their lives for the mission and each other, while your only contribution has been smirking and critiquing others who actually do something. Keep talking and I will personally put you in the airlock and space you.
Blake turned to Callan.
If the Federation knows who we are and what we have, then it's time we showed them what we can do. We'll take out their installations on the planet, destroy them utterly, and make them pay for what they've done to the people of Kynessos and to you and Semele.
Federation pursuit ships, Blake. Dozens of them. Entering Kynessos airspace. We have to get out of here now. The Vindictus can't take them all on. Not alone. I've seen this before, Blake, and you weren't there. Well, I was, and I can't do this again.
Villa's eyes were wide with terror and the memories of another ship, another crew, facing overwhelming forces alone.
Clear the neutron blasters for firing. We can't hold all of them. Haven, this is stupid.
When did that ever stop us? Fire!
Villa.
Callan saw Villa's panic and Blake's anger. He spoke slowly, choosing his words carefully.
Blake, I've sworn an oath to follow you wherever that might lead. I understand a desire to fight, to exact revenge on an enemy, with the fury of battle raging through your blood. But being a true leader is more than bravery and willingness to die for a cause. It's deciding to do what is right. The Vindictus may not survive a direct encounter with this level of force. We will damage the enemy, yes, but if we are destroyed, it will only be a victory for the Federation, no matter how many of the enemy we take with us.
Time seemed to stand still as Callan's words echoed in Blake's head, and she was forced to acknowledge the truth behind what he said. If she chose to fight now, it would be to silence the other voices, the ones that kept her up at night, the fear and the guilt over every decision she had made so far. The helpless rage she felt at their inability to make a difference for the people of Kynessos would be another accusatory voice in her head. But Callan was right. It was time for her to act like a true leader. She had thought the Vindictus would make them invincible, allow her to hurt the Federation instantly and at will. to win Roger's war once and for all. She took a deep breath.
Koyos, set a course that avoids the incoming battle fleet standard by 8. Let's get the hell out of here.
Confirmed. Standard by 8.
When the time is right, we will fight. When we have more allies and the brutality of the Federation and animals like Arik is laid bare for all to see.
Blake's voice was filled with assurance that inwardly she didn't feel. She knew the crew needed her to appear strong, even when, inside, she felt anything but. Niamh strode into her office on board the command ship that had transported her to Kainessos. Sitting at her desk, she took a few moments to assess the information she now held on Vindictus and its crew. Circling in her mind were the names of the renegades on board that ship. Blake, Ensor, Callan, Semele, Villa, and now Tavia. The absurdity was that the whole predicament with Rog Blake and the Liberator now seemed to be repeating itself with Lou Blake and the Vindictus. This situation was of course manipulated and created by Aurak, who the Federation had sought to capture for decades. Niamh wondered if Aurak was not just a data goldmine, but also a strategist. Could it actually think for itself and outwit even the most highly trained strategic minds like her own? The thought was both disconcerting and exciting, but the possibilities, if the Federation could obtain Aurak, were potentially limitless. Niamh longed to change out of the formal attire she had adorned for her official duties on Kainessos, but, unfortunately, there were matters left to address, as she had edited a report for the Supreme Imperator on the screen in front of her using thought-processing technology. Preferring to type, she found the technology frustrating, as her mind often wandered, resulting in other strategies and thoughts appearing in the report, which she then had to amend. She was also uncomfortable with anything or anyone being able to access her mind. When the report was finally finished and submitted, she stood up and stared out of the window, seeing the planet Kainessos rapidly moving further and further into the distance as her ship headed back to the Federation command station situated between Earth and Mars. A communication request came through her console from none other than the Supreme Imperator. For once, she ignored it, wanting Arik to be present for this debrief, aware of the trust and temporarily elevated status that the SI had granted the Space Commander during the failed mission to Gouda Prime, and she wanted to ensure that any blame for letting Blake, the Vindictus, and Aurak get away was not parked solely with her. Instead of answering the SI, she summoned her aide.
Yes, Mom?
Have Space Commander Arik attend my office, immediately.
At once, Commissioner.
The seething figure of Arik entered Niamh's office, and he perched himself on a chair opposite her. She regarded him coolly.
Why so angry, Space Commander?
We had them and we lost them.
Correction, you lost them. It was a military matter to successfully hold the prisoners, recondition the mutoid, and capture the Vindictus. Your selected men let them escape, which then led to the escape of Blake, Aurak, and the ship. Are we clear?
Niamh's hand hovered inches from the small blaster she kept under her desk. Such was her distrust of Arik's temper. Occasionally, she almost hoped his temper would snap, although she was undecided on whether she preferred to kill or be seduced by the Space Commander.
I accept responsibilities, I always do, Commissioner. However, we could not have known about their ship's teleport capabilities, that Zediffin was joining their crew, or the help of the prisoner Tavia.
Arik spoke far more calmly than Lamia had expected. His inconsistent temperament disturbed Lamia more than she liked to admit.
I'm glad we understand each other, Space Commander. Would you like a drink?
Lamia opened a bottle of Magdalen wine. Arik waved his hand dismissively.
Yes, Commissioner. What is it?
You tried to contact me earlier.
I am aware that you ignored my attempt to contact you, Commissioner. Probably to summon Space Commander Arik in order to share the debrief for the Kinesos mission.
Arik smiled insolently at Lamia for the first time during this meeting, amused that the Commissioner had been caught out.
Please continue.
For the successful submission of the people of Kinesos and the reset of their economy, I thank you both. However, the Blake situation and the lack of ability to deal with it quickly is now of concern. I expect a coordinated effort between Command Administration and the military to bring the situation to an end before it escalates. We cannot have them inspiring resistance in the unmined planets, and your success will be viewed as a joint one. Is that clear?
Yes, Supreme Imperator.
Indeed.
Lamia sipped her wine nonchalantly. Silence seemed to linger for much longer than the minute or so it actually was. Lamia looked at Arik and saw no discernible emotion and no movement from him. He was sat motionless, as if awaiting orders.
Is there anything else, Space Commander?
No, Commissioner. I shall await your strategies on how best to deal with the Blake situation.
Dismissed.
Arik left Lamia in no doubt as to where the responsibility for any further action lay.
Space Commander Vordan, do you have any update?
Commissioner Lamia, our flotilla continues to track the alien vessel out of range of detection. The flight path estimations have calculated that they have changed course and are now on their way to the supply planet of Gardinos.
I suppose even renegades need to restock on occasion. Space Commander, continue following the Vindictus and keep reporting back to me. Do not engage with them at this time, but await instruction. Is that clear?
Yes, Commissioner. Perfectly clear. Vordan out.
Vordan closed the communication channel quickly to minimize chances of a coded communication being intercepted by Aurak. Lamia sat back in her chair and sipped some more wine, exhilarated by the challenge that this current situation presented. All too often her work was predictable, with predictable responses feeding predictable forecasts. It seemed that at last, here was a foe worthy to engage with, and as a result, she felt within her a renewed sense of determination to halt Blake's crew, and to capture both the Vindictus and Aurak, knowing that the greater the obstacle, the greater the power she would receive.
Information. Vindictus has evaded all detected Federation ships in the vicinity of the planet Kinesos.
Tavia gazed around the Vindictus flight deck admiringly. It seemed an extremely advanced ship, and she wondered whose ship it actually was. It was certainly better than a death row waiting cell on Kynessos. The leather backpack rested comfortably against her, and she pulled it closer, protectively, thankful she had been able to save it as they escaped from her home planet. Despite this, the tension on board was palpable, and she felt the distrust of the motley crew aboard directed at her.
Information. Vindictus is en route to the planet Gardenos.
Gardenos? What for?
You may not need much by way of supplies, Emily, but the rest of us do. And the food and refreshment stocks are pretty low at present, so I figured a rest and restock mission was a good option right now.
Thanks for asking the rest of us.
Sorry, Ensor. There wasn't enough time for a committee meeting, and I thought we were better moving with a purpose, even if it's a temporary one rather than being sitting ducks in Kynessos space, with the amount of Federation ships active around there.
Blake was feeling the strain of the constant deliberations that seemed to be necessary aboard the ship.
Sounds fair to me. I can always do with some rest and a restock. Can we stay, for a month or two, maybe?
Blake wasn't sure if he was joking or not.
Going to Gardenos makes sense, as it's a neutral supply planet, so in terms of location, allegiance, and necessity, it is a wise move.
Callan looked at Blake reassuringly, who smiled at him to thank him for his support.
I thought the Federation presence around Kynessos had all left in a different direction. So where is the threat?
Aurak?
Monitoring of communications and ship movements indicate that there was a flotilla of 3 pursuit ships deliberately attempting to evade our detection around Kynessos.
Then how did you pick them up, Aurak?
As ever, I remain committed to our survival.
Your survival, more like.
If I may continue, as ever, I remain committed to our survival, and so took the liberty of interrogating Central Control to ascertain the purpose of the previously mentioned flotilla. My analysis of the limited data available is that the flotilla was tracking the ship specifically.
And they did not attack us. Why?
It is logical to assume there will be a future attack at an undesignated place and time.
Then where are they now?
Callan was growing tired of being lectured ambiguously by a computer.
Aurak, where is that flotilla now?
I am no longer able to monitor the flotilla's exact movements, as we have moved out of range. I am routinely monitoring Central Control and Federation communications for information as my time allows.
When its time allows. Stupid machine has always been out for itself.
Which is a good thing, surely, since we have Aurak to help us. We're out of range, that seems good enough for now. Let's take it in turns manning the flight deck to monitor the situation while the rest of us get some sleep.
Are we going to let her roam the ship freely?
Villa pointed at Tavia.
They seem to let you, so why not me?
Listen, lady, if you are indeed a lady, I've been here. And by that I mean I've been around, involved in this, whatever this is, probably since before you were born, and some courtesy wouldn't go amiss.
Enough!
Callan stood up at his console, his imposing figure dominating the conversation.
Tavia helped Simali and I escape from Kynessos. Her actions throughout were honourable and that of a warrior. Villa, I admire your actions remembering Tarrant on Zardoth. I now vouch for Tavia in the same way I would you, until that trust is broken.
Blake looked around at her crew and then at the newcomer.
Does anyone have any other views they would like to share?
Just keep away from my private area.
Listen, bud, I have no interest in any of your areas, private or otherwise.
I don't think any of us want to hang out in the medical bay, Ensor. That's settled then. Callan, show Tavia where she can find some quarters, food, and change of clothes. Are there any volunteers to take first watch?
I will.
How novel. Becoming a team player, at long last.
Semele shot Ensor a wry smile which, to her continued dismay, Ensor ignored. In the meantime, Callan led Tavia from the flight deck, the latest addition to the crew still clutching her backpack. The rest of the crew made their way to their quarters in silence.
do you want?
Come back to the flight deck, Villa. There's some profitable fun to be had.
Ensor had a cheeky smile emblazoned across his handsome features, a look which Villa had not seen before. For some reason, though, Villa felt excited by the proposition.
I'll be there in a tick.
He paused briefly, watching Ensor walk back towards the flight deck on the viewer.
All right, Ensor. What is it exactly you've dragged me out of bed for?
We may not share many traits, Villa, but I think we both recognise that wealth is the only reality. Am I right?
Ensor's questioning response annoyed Villa, as he had crossed swords with bullies who underestimated his intelligence far too often.
I once heard another computer embezzler say that, but yes, I do recognise the need for money, even more so after my time on GP.
We spoke earlier about how the Federation had infiltrated the trading mainframe on Kainessos and redirected all trade through the Congress via another terminal. Aurak has located and accessed that terminal and turned the tide a little.
Ensor smiled widely. Villa now understood what this meant, and also found himself smiling broadly.
But they'll track us. So, where can we store it all?
Oh, Villa, I thought you were cleverer than that. We won't take it all. We will take enough for us, but not enough to be noticed. And Aurak has set us up false credit accounts. All we have to do is get to a credit terminal, and there should be some on Gardanos to confirm our voice prints, fingerprints, and retina scan.
Why are you sharing with me?
I like to fleece the feds. Call it professional vanity if you like. But with two smaller transactions, I can fleece them more than I would on my own. It's as simple as that. The others won't want any part of it. But you?
Villa paused for a moment, assessing the plausibility of Ensor's plan.
All right. Seems reasonable, but what do you want from me?
Just tell Aurak you're in. That's all.
How much are we talking?
50 million credits each. An unnoticeable amount to them, but enough to make us richer than we will ever be, Villa. Go on. Just tell Aurak.
Villa paused again, thinking. Was this really his dreams coming true thanks to someone he hardly knew and trusted even less? Or was it too implausible?
Aurak.
Yes, what is it, Villa?
I'm in. Whatever Ensor has set up with you, I'm in. All right.
Understood.
Is it done, Aurak?
The two transactions are complete. Your pseudo-identities now possess 50 million credits each. Now kindly leave me to continue with my own business.
There, our troubles are over. Next stop, Gardanos, and then on to wherever we choose.
You're not staying with Blake, then?
For the time being. There are things I need to do here, but once those things are completed, I will leave Blake to her crusades. Other people's ideologies never really interested me, especially when they seem likely to get me killed. What about you, Villa?
I've only ever been along for the ride. I keep telling everybody that.
Yes, you do, don't you?
I'm too old for the ride now, Ensor. I need to get off while I still can. Everyone has gone. Everyone I rode with. All dead. Tarrant was the last. Well, let's see if we can get the credits confirmed on Gardanos.
To Ensor's surprise, Villa extended his hand in friendship. Both men smiled at each other.
Thank you, Ensor.
Villa then turned and left the flight deck, making his way to his quarters, some 50 million credits richer. Ensor was tired. He had been on watch for over 6 hours now, and his only interest in the trip to Gardinos was to confirm the riches he had stolen from the Federation credit system. There were only so many times anyone could be beaten by Aurak at space chess. His eyes were drooping, and he found himself wondering why anyone had to be on watch at all. After all, the ship had Koyos and Aurak to keep an eye on things, and surely they could wake the crew if needed. Through the tedium, his mind started to drift, planning how he could get himself and Aurak off the ship and onto a safe planet, where he could live his own life, without anyone needing to be notified of a change of course, or of Federation ships within scanning range.
A priority announcement has been intercepted from the Central Justice computer of an outlying planet.
Is this the most excitement we're going to get? It's probably just another bounty capture. Do I really care, Aurak? Which planet is it?
The announcement originated from the planet Exbar and concerns President Inga.
What's the relevance?
Inga is Blake's mother.
Ensor thought for a moment, knowing the probable outcome would be a trip to Exbar if Blake became aware of the news. Never one to dismiss a situation without examining all angles, he wondered if this might be a way out for him. He wandered over to Aurak and placed his hands on the top of the machine, looking into Aurak as if he were directly addressing the spherical object in the centre of the casing.
Is Exbar a civilized planet with credit terminals?
I fail to see the relevance, but Exbar is a planet that operates as a strategic trade port, and so naturally has credit terminals. It has a thin but breathable atmosphere. Part of the planet's surface is broken up by chalk escarpments, and the only native life before human occupation as a penal colony was minimal vegetation.
Yes, Aurak, thank you. Play the full announcement.
President Inga Blake has been imprisoned for treason for aiding the escape of her convicted terrorist daughter, Lou Blake. Her son, Arlen Joden, has temporarily placed the planet under martial law, giving him ruling power as the Minister for Security in the absence of the imprisoned president.
Silence hung over the flight deck as Ensor fought with his conscience. This would surely mean another change of course to the other side of the galaxy, but he might still be able to make this work to his advantage. He walked tentatively over to his control terminal and hit the switch on his console that plugged him into the ship's intercom system before speaking wearily into it.
Blake, you'd better get down here. There's something you need to listen to.
In her office, on board her command vessel, Lamia read the report displayed on the screen. Everything appeared to have gone exactly as planned, and she opened a communications channel to Exbar.
I believe congratulations are in order, Acting President Joden.
Thank you, Commissioner Lamia. Ex-President Inga is now imprisoned for her crimes against Exbar, and the path is now open for the negotiations you promised.
Yes, we are now en route to Exbar. I hope you are ready to discuss your planet's future, and of course to negotiate a very fruitful future for yourself.
I am, Commissioner. I should advise you that while many see the imprisonment as justified, there are also many who feel that Inga's actions were justified. There is some underlying unrest due to the perception that a political coup was underway due to the popularity of the ex-president. Ex-Barians in general tend not to be activists until they know all the facts and form clear views, but then they can become very vigilant in their approach.
Don't you worry, Acting President. We can formulate a plan to convince any resistance of the correct way forward for all Ex-Barians.
I think it would be best if you arrive with a minimal entourage, Commissioner.
Noted. I will ensure that is the case, and will send through our flight path so you can be aware of our arrival time. We shall meet soon.
Lamia closed the communication and smiled to herself. Her strategy to persuade Joden into a coup against his mother was one of her favoured tactics, manipulating a weaker-minded individual into creating a desired situation. It had not taken much for Lamia to convince him to take his place at the head of the planet and to prepare to negotiate the planet's future. His all-too-obvious ambition and resentment of both his sister and his mother making him easy to persuade and negotiate with. Arlen Joden was like so many petty politicians Lamia had used over the years, fancying himself as a power player, when in truth he was nothing more than a pawn. The suppression of Expar should be straightforward, and the anticipated arrival of the Vindictus, upon hearing news of Inga's imprisonment, would be an additional benefit, if not the main one. Blake strode onto the flight deck, her auburn-tinged curly hair more unruly than ever. As she took her seat at the central console, Villa, Callan, Semele and Tavia arrived close behind, having heard Ensor's announcement. Tavia looked at Blake, noticing again how attractive she was, with her steely jaw and sprinkling of freckles that made her look younger than her years.
Report, please, Ensor.
I don't report to anyone, Blake. Orac. Tell her what you told me.
Are you not capable of repeating the information?
Tavia observed the crew and smiled, amused at the tensions, especially between Ensor and Blake.
A whole heap of egos on board here. Hell, even the box of lights seems to have one.
Of course I am capable of repeating the information, Orac, but your function here is to gather and relay information as necessary. So get on with it.
Oh, very well. The president of Expar, Inga Blake, has been imprisoned for treason on the charge of aiding the escape of her convicted terrorist daughter, Lou Blake. Her son, Arlen Joden, has temporarily placed the planet under martial law and has assumed the position of acting president.
I thought my family sucked, but throwing each other in cells is just bitchy.
Blake's unamused look told her that now was not the time for Tavia's crude view of the universe.
Koios, set a course for Expar Standard by 9.
Yet more consultation. For someone who is supposedly a freedom fighter, you certainly don't seem to have a problem being a petty dictator, do you?
That's my mother, Ensor. So be quiet or I'll shut you up. The offer to put you in the airlock still stands.
You should be aware that Joden has been in recent contact with Commissioner Lamia. However, the communication was blocked before I could glean its purpose.
Typical Federation strategy. Lay the bait and wait for the target to come. Could be a trap, Blake. I've seen these tactics before.
I agree with Ensor and Villa. This is a typical Federation ploy, and you should have consulted with us, Blake.
The mutoid looked at Ensor as she spoke, as if willing him to notice not only that she was siding with him, but also the affectionate look she afforded him. Ensor, never slow to discern such signals, smiled to himself, noting that Semele was, for once, not agreeing with Blake, as she had consistently until now. He had no interest in the mutoid, but if she were enamored with him, then it would be amusing to see another crack in Blake's ability to command a divided crew. Ensor had no ambition to command, but he would enjoy disrupting Blake.
I don't want to debate with any of you, is that clear? We're going to Expar, and if any of you aren't up for this, I will gladly drop you off on the nearest planet.
It's her mother we're talking about here. I get it. We need to help her, right?
The blonde woman smiled at Blake, sensing she needed some backing, and also wanting to edge her way into her affection. Tavia, with her instincts for reading people, sensed how isolated and anxious Blake felt, and she wanted to help.
Blake has to go. It is her family honour that is in question. Nothing is more important than our clan's honour. I understand. We must go.
Callan looked squarely at Ensor. His initial distrust and dislike of the tall, dark-haired man had quickly grown into obvious contempt, as it seemed Ensor possessed no ethics or sense of honour. This offended Callan's warrior mentality.
Koios, no countermand. Expar, Standard by 9, confirm.
Confirmed.
Blake stayed in her quarters as the Vindictus made its way to Exbar. She was in no mood to deal with the crew, even though she knew she shouldn't let her personal problems direct her actions. The thought of her mother in prison, however, overwhelmed her and drowned out all other thoughts. Fear for Inga mingled with anger and distrust at her brother's perfidy. Blake knew that Jodan resented her, even hated her, but she never thought he would go as far as to put their mother's safety in jeopardy. Underneath Blake's fear and anger was the nagging thought that it was her escape and stance against the Federation that had really put her mother at risk. But even though stopping her brother from allying Exbar with the Federation, which Blake suspected Jodan sought to do, would be difficult, it would be a setback to the Federation's expansion plans. The crew would have to see that, see how much they needed to strike against the Federation, especially after the failure to free Kainessos. As Blake struggled to calm her nerves, she wondered again who in her crew she could really depend on to share her vision. The answer was no clearer when sleep finally claimed her. The flight deck was deserted but for Semele, the rest of the crew having retired to their quarters. Monitoring the instruments, she thought back to the earlier confrontation with Blake, wondering why she had allowed herself to be drawn into siding with Ensor against Blake, the one person who had stood up for her when the rest of the crew were set against allowing a mutoid to remain on board the Vindictus. Semele was not prone to introspection, but as her mental adaptation seemed to be failing more and more, she found herself feeling human emotions, even recalling faint memories of her life before being converted. Inexplicably, she also found herself being increasingly drawn to Ensor. She wasn't sure why, and he had certainly shown her no special kindness. Maybe it was the fact Ensor seemed completely impervious to her presence aboard the ship, unlike every other crew member, who all seemed to have a definite opinion of her. It crossed her mind that it could be another symptom of her conditioning breaking down, allowing unfamiliar emotions to suddenly hit her in uncontrollable waves. Semele shook her head as if to free herself of the introspection and refocused on her system's monitoring, taking the opportunity to drink some vital serum while the crew were not present to observe. Self-reflection was the one human trait she wasn't eager to regain quickly. Better to keep focused on the mission that Blake was so determined to follow through on, despite her opinion that it was foolhardy and rash.
Attention. We will arrive in Exbar space within the hour. Make your way to the flight deck.
Blake was the last of the crew to arrive on the flight deck. The rest had done her good. She felt refreshed and determined to help her mother, the woman she had always relied on, who had always been there for her, and who now needed her. Even if, in recent years, Blake felt her mother could have helped her more, she was grateful that Inga had freed her from imprisonment, knowing it might jeopardize her own political career and well-being. Inga had put her daughter and her family first in the end, and Blake admired her even more for that. She gritted her teeth, fighting back some tears when thinking about her mother's current predicament. She took a deep breath and prepared to address the crew, standing up at her console.
Thank you all for trusting me. I realize our visits to Zadith and to Kainessos have not gone to plan. While up to now I have chosen our moments to confront the Federation, perhaps poorly, but here at least we can use our resources to free my mother, as she freed me.
Blake took a moment to make eye contact with each of her crew.
I have to help her and the people of my home planet. My brother, Joden, is, I believe, planning to ally Exbar with the Federation. From what we know now, after visiting Kainessos, that will mean the subjugation of the population through Pylene 74. I can't let that happen. I want to gain some measure of victory against the Federation, albeit on a much smaller scale than I would like.
The crew were transfixed on her every word, her talent for leadership suddenly shining through. Suppressing the nerves within her, and gaining confidence from the crew's lack of debate, Blake continued.
I don't expect you to join me, and you can stay here if you prefer, or you can leave at the first sign of danger. There'll be no hard feelings. I understand that I have asked you more than once to risk your lives for a cause you may not believe in as strongly as I do. It's up to you all. I don't know what we will find down there, and the Federation could be arriving at any time. I heard your concerns, Ensor, Villa, and Semele, and I am sorry I reacted emotionally. But simply, who is coming with me?
Blake tensed, awaiting the verdict from the crew.
Your mission is honourable. I will accompany you.
Callan met Blake's gaze with a warlike expression. She smiled back at him, her affection for the Zadathan continuing to grow.
I will help you, Blake, as you have helped me. Just know that debt won't last forever.
Tavia looked straight at Blake and smiled a wide, gleaming grin that softened her angular features instantly.
You're the one member of the elite who chose to break the law. That kind of makes me really like you, and I want to help you and your family out.
Tavia made her admiration of Blake obvious, and as a result, Blake felt herself blushing slightly. She looked away from Tavia in an attempt to hide her uncontrolled response.
All right, thank you, the three of you. It means a lot to me. Let's get kitted up.
Blake turned with a relieved look on her face and started to move towards the teleport bay. She was stopped in her tracks by Ensor.
You may need me down there.
I may.
I'll get kitted up then.
You do that.
Blake smiled, a small part of her brain wondering at Ensor's acquiescence. Right now, though, she couldn't allow herself to be paranoid. She needed to focus on what was ahead. Villa watched the crew leave the flight deck from his seat at the table in the relaxation area and poured himself another glass of wine from the ship's supplies. He raised the glass to Aurak.
Cheers, Aurak. Oh, we've been here before, haven't we?
You can stay here, Villa, or you can come if you want. It's up to you.
I think I've probably become too old and a little too drunk to help Blake. I'll stay up here and double up with good old Aurak. We'll make sure we don't miss anything. Is that all right?
Blake sensed that the one-time crew member of the Liberator and Scorpio, a man her cousin had trusted and travelled with, was slowing down, yearning for some other life to the one here on the Vindictus. She couldn't blame him, knowing how much just a few missions had drained her and made her feel older than she was, so she could only imagine how Villa must be feeling right now. He had, after all, been through much during his time as a reluctant freedom fighter, even before the last few decades on Garda Prime. She hugged him and smiled.
That is fine, Villa. Keep Aurak awake, won't you, and give us back up from here. Is that all right?
They stood, Villa picking up Aurak and walking towards the steps.
Thank you, Blake. I'll keep Aurak in check.
I've given you coordinates that will put us down in the prison complex, Villa. I'm hoping we won't need to be on the surface very long, but I don't know how much resistance we'll encounter.
All levity now gone, Blake kept her voice steady.
And do try to stay awake, Villa.
Villa glared, none too seriously, at Semele. Blake clipped a gun belt around her waist, and then turned to face the others in the teleport bay.
Once we're on the surface, I need you all to hold your fire if we encounter non-Federation personnel. I know the prison staff, most of them are decent people. loyal to my mother, and they may even help us once they see we're there to free her. I will take the lead. They are less likely to shoot if they see a familiar face first.
To Blake's surprise, no one objected, and, nodding briefly, she joined them in the teleport area and gave the signal for Villa to send them down to X-Bar.